creators need Marvel and DC anymore? For decades, there was one dream shared by countless comic creators: to get noticed, to get hired, and eventually tell stories for Marvel and DC. In 2026, is that still the ultimate goal? Recently, a boycott call against DC Comics led by Black Comic Alliance sparked conversation throughout the comics community about representation, opportunity, and the treatment of Black creators within mainstream comics. But at the same time, something else is happening. Black creators aren't waiting for permission anymore. They're launching successful crowdfunding campaigns. And to be honest, it's not only them. Everyone else can do this. They're building their own publishing companies. They are creating their own superhero universe, and they're finding audience that supports them directly. So today I want to ask a question that might make some people uncomfortable. Do Black creators actually need Marvel and DC anymore? Come on, does anyone else needs it? I'm not here to tell anyone how they should feel about the boycott or whatever they should support it. Instead, I want to look at the bigger picture and ask where the future of Black superhero comics is really being built. For most of comics history, the path to success was pretty clear. If you wanted to work on the biggest characters, reach the largest audience, and make your mark on the industry, Marvel and DC were the destination. These companies owned icons: Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, the X-Men. Working on those books meant visibility, prestige, and opportunities that independent creators simply didn't have access to. And for many Black creators, gaining a seat at the table wasn't just about personal success. It was about having a voice in shaping some of the most influential fictional characters in popular culture. That's why conversation about representation and opportunities within mainstream comics continue to matter to many people today. The impact of those characters extends far beyond comic shops. They become movies, they become television shows, they become video games, merchandising, and inevitably global brands. So when people push for more opportunities within Marvel and DC, they're often thinking about influence and visibility as much as employment. And that's a fair argument. But here's the question: what happens when creators no longer need those companies to reach an audience? The comics industry in 2026 is not the comic industry of 1996. Crowdfunding has changed everything. Today, creators can launch directly on any crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or any other. They can build an audience through YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, or even newsletters. They can sell directly on their own website, own their intellectual property, and keep control over the stories they're creating. And that's a massive shift in power. Instead of pitching superhero concepts and hoping publishers say yes, creators can take the same concept directly to the reader. And Black creators have been proving that this model works. Recently, Godhood Comics published a list featuring of 100 Black-owned comics publishers and self-publishers. 100. Think about that for a moment. These aren't creators waiting around for approval from corporate publishers. These are creators building businesses, building universes, building communities. And what's especially interesting is how many of them are creating superhero comics. For years, there was this narrative that Black-led superhero books couldn't find an audience, that readers wouldn't support them, that the market wasn't there. Yet time and time again, independent creators have shown that an audience exists. Not only does it exist, it's actively spending money. One of the biggest lessons crowdfunding has taught us is that readers care more about good stories. They care about compelling characters. They care about creators they trust. And increasingly, they care less about which logo appears on the cover. The success of indie comics has demonstrated that audiences are willing to support projects directly when they believe in them. Creators aren't just selling comics anymore. They are building brands, they are creating communities, they are developing intellectual property that they actually own. And in today's world, ownership matters. When an independent creator creates a new hero, that character belongs to them, not to a corporation, not to a licensing department, not to a parent company. The creator benefits from the growth of that property. And that's a level of freedom many creators in previous generation could only dream about. Now, obviously, some of you might be saying, if Black creators are succeeding independently, why bother fighting for representation within Marvel and DC at all? And that's where the conversation gets interesting, because these things aren't mutually exclusive goals. A creator can build an independent career and still want mainstream publishers to provide fair opportunities. A creator can own their own audience, also believing that major publisher should better reflect the diversity of the audience they're serving. The success of Black indie creator doesn't automatically invalidate concerns about the mainstream industry, nor does criticism of the mainstream diminish the achievements of independent creators. Both realities can exist at the same time. The real question is wherever the balance of power is beginning to shift. Because for the first time in comic history, creators have viable alternatives. And that changes everything. A great example of this shift can be seen in projects like Noir is the New Black, currently on Kickstarter. Rather than waiting for publishers to create opportunities, Black creators are creating those opportunities themselves. They're showcasing talent, building audience, telling stories on their own terms, and proving there's demand for these books. Wherever or not these creators even work for Marvel or DC, almost becomes a secondary question, because they're already doing the work. They are already creating the stories, and readers are already showing up to support them. That's a powerful statement about where the industry may be heading. So, do Black creators need Marvel and DC anymore? The answer may be different depending on who you ask. But one thing seems clear. Black creators no longer need to wait for a mainstream publisher to validate their talent. And obviously, when I say Black creators, it's just not only them. Anyone can do this. You who are watching this video, you can do this. They no longer need permission to create superheroes. They no longer need gatekeepers to find an audience. The rise of crowdfunding, self-publishing, and creator-owned comics has opened doors that didn't exist a generation ago. And perhaps that is the most important development at all. The future of Black superhero comics may not be determined inside the office of Marvel and DC. It may be determined by creators and readers publishing something together, one campaign at a time. But what do you think? Is it still important to fight for representation and opportunities within the mainstream, or has crowdfunding created a new path that is ultimately more valuable? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow comic fans. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.